Okay. Okay. All right. Things that made a difference for me. We start early. Obviously, it was my father's decision to quit working in his father's, my grandfather's hardware store in Philadelphia, where I think he probably spent 4 or 5 years after graduating from high school. Decided he didn't like that at all, and he wanted to go to medical school. So he enrolled in Lafayette College, spent 3 years at Lafayette College in eastern Pennsylvania, and Hanneman Medical School in Philadelphia had a program where they would allow you to enter medical school without a college degree if you had 3 years of pre-med and had scored well on your exams. So he never really graduated from college, but went on to Hanneman, spent 4 years there and got his medical degree. He must have graduated, I don't know these dates exactly, but I think probably in 1937 or so, because he married my mother on July 3rd, 1937. And then he had a year internship in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And after that internship, tried to establish a private practice in the Pocono Mountains. This was during the Depression, of course, and it was a business failure. He said he ate well because people paid him in hams and eggs and chickens, but nobody had any cash and he couldn't pay his rent and his other bills. So he began looking for a job, something with a guaranteed income. Meanwhile, my mother was pregnant with me and not living with him in the Poconos. So I was born July 31st, 1939, and it was in the fall of 1939 that my father took a position in the Student Health Service at Lehigh University. So that's what got us to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where essentially I grew up. So near as I understand it now, my mother stayed in Philadelphia with me until September when he started at Lehigh University, and then joined him in Bethlehem in a small apartment on Broad Street. You remember that? So that got me to Bethlehem. He was with Lehigh University from 1939 to about 1954. 1955. And it was in 1955, when I was in high school, he decided he wanted to go back into private practice. He'd been through a lot of stress at the university and had just built a university health center and been promoted to the head of the student health service in the meantime. But it wasn't really what he wanted to do. Meantime, as a freshman in high school in 1954, I met Ardith. So we met in the high school band, and Ardith came after me, right? Yes. I was, I think, a pretty shy kid, and she was the assertive person in that relationship. So there I was. I liked her, and we were beginning to date, as you do, or at least did in those days in high school dances, maybe a few things like that. Not much going on. My mother actually drove me to Ardith's house for our first date, so I wasn't old enough yet to drive. And I remember very distinctly being a shy person, going up to the front door, a little hesitant at her house. We were there to pick her up. My mother was going to take us to a high school dance and then pick us up afterwards and drop us off. So I knocked on the door, and Ardith's mother, of course I'd never met her parents, opened the door and said the dreaded words, "Oh, please come in, she's not ready yet." Which meant I had to go in and meet these people and sit and talk to them. And it took Ardith about 10 minutes, as I remember, to come downstairs, get with me. And in that time, her mother happened to mention to me how disappointed she'd be if Ardith ever eloped. I was just sort of... but our relationship developed fairly well. But in 1955, my father, as I said, decided he wanted to go into private practice. So he and my mother bought a house in Freemansburg, Pennsylvania, which is a small town, or at least was then a small town between Bethlehem, Pennsylvania and Easton, Pennsylvania. I can show you on a map where that is, but they're 10 or 12 miles apart. Easton's on the Lehigh River and the Delaware River. And so that meant maybe I would have to go to a different school system. But since I had already been involved in high school for a year and a half in Bethlehem, I asked if I couldn't stay there. And my parents were, I think, sensitive to that. So they found a way for me to be there. I think they had to pay a little tuition for me to stay.